Hello everybody and welcome back to a new video of mine. Today we are going to be talking about a very important topic, which is why airbags are not your only solution to having safer cars and, more importantly, safer roads. Now we all know about the tragic death of Mr. Cyrus Mistry and how the events unfolded. This frankly has brought about a lot of attention on the sheer record of risk which a consumer takes, a risk which a driver takes, a risk which a passenger takes while traveling on Indian roads. This has truly been heartbreaking and ultimately allows us to reflect on the things, on the steps which we can take to improve not just the safety of our cars but the safety of our roads. And by now you might have noticed why I am not using only the term safer cars. Because honestly, to have a better ecosystem, it is not just that there is a need for a safer cars, but there is also a need for safer roads also. Now we have seen great developments at the speed at which new roads are built and connecting cities and towns all over India. And while certainly that is a great development, the fact is that our roads still are not that safe. And this could either be due to bad quality, bad weather, or at the same time sheer lack of good drivers on Indian roads as such. And this has caused a lot of havoc and in fact making India one of the most dangerous countries to even drive, with a high fatality rate in case of crashes. And a lot of these deaths occurring due to road crashes as such. And this could be either due to the fault of the driver or not to the fault of the driver also. But this highlights the need that not only that there should be safer roads alongside safer cars also. While there has been an outspoken push for safer cars, especially with the new development that there will be that having 6 airbags will be mandatory on new cars going forwards. And while that certainly is a good step on the surface, that I don't think that is going to suffice the problem which is plaguing India right now. Because having more airbags, while novel in terms of its intention, cannot reduce the intensity of the crash which the car faces. And it is always the intensity, the shock absorption which is undertaken by the structure of the car that determines whether a passenger gets injured or faces death. If the structural integrity, the strength of the chassis, which is essentially the body of the car, can absorb the impact from the opposing force, then it will allow for the car to not just to make sure that the impact doesn't reach the passengers and there is not that much movement inside the cabin. But if the car cannot absorb that impact, then it will simply not allow for the consumers to for the drivers, for the passengers to actually survive that fatal crash. Because even though there might be airbags act as a cushion to the consumer, to the drivers, to the passengers who are sitting in the car, and not as and it doesn't provide them structural integrity to make sure that they are actually able to avoid the crash as such. It is always the structural integrity, the body of the car, which makes sure that a crash actually doesn't hamper the consumers. I mean, if you look at the A segment cars, for example, or the B segment cars, you have the Grand i10, which scored a measly 2.5 stars in the NCAP ratings. But on the other hand, the Tata Punch scores 5 stars. Now both of these cars have 2 airbags. So where does the difference lie? The difference lies in the strength of the chassis, the strength of the body of the car, where the simple differentiation is that a Tata Punch can absorb more impact compared to the Grand i10, and it will thereby suffer less damage and ultimately thereby cause less injuries to the passengers inside the cabin. That is why airbags might be a good solution on paper, but that's not the only solution as such. Furthermore, if you look at the Indian car market while we are transitioning to SUVs, the fact is that a majority of the sales still do come from the entry level segment of cars, which consists of cars like Alto K10s, Alto 800s, Wagonrs, Kwid, Swift. And while all these cars now do have 2 airbags at least, which matches the Indian norms, but the fact is that this simply doesn't allow the body of the car simply doesn't allow for 6 airbags to exist. It is very difficult to pack in 6 airbags on a car which is assembled at a very low cost and on a very tight budget as such. To have 6 airbags inside them is further not only going to shoot up prices, but the structure of those cars are simply not accommodative of 6 airbags. So causing structural changes will also drive up the prices and ultimately cause the sales for the general car market to actually come down, because let's face it, even though there is a huge transitioning happening taking place towards SUVs, a lot of the sales still come from your entry level segment, where you have per month at least, for example, for the Alto, around 15,000 units being sold. And that is no small number. That is a very big market, and that still cannot be left out, cannot be betrayed by the car makers. So that is a big dilemma there. Furthermore, it is alongside airbags, I think there is a need to have active safety features, like for example, your lane departure warnings, or having active cruise control, for example. That will also help. Or for having radar assistance systems or ADAS systems. And while these systems are much more expensive and are not feasible for smaller cars, at least they should make their way into the sedans and the SUVs which are being sold over 10 lakh rupees. Because frankly, the manufacturers can provide them going ahead, and if the systems are being put into place, that will surely help in at least avoiding crashes onto many of the crashes which happen, especially on the national highway, where actually most of the crashes take place, and those crashes are also high speed and are often fatal in nature. So having systems like ADAS, like lane keeping assist, like active cruise control, and all the entire suite of radar assisted systems will actually make sure that the roads in India are safer for consumers. The car itself will actually be able to determine whether certain parts of the road are safe, certain parts of the road are not safe, and ultimately direct the driver of the car itself to actually drive in a certain manner too, and make sure that the passengers have a good and a safe journey, but at the same time the car itself assists in making sure that the entire journey progresses well and there is no unfortunate turn of events, which is often the story which occurs, like in the case of Mr. Cyrus Mistry and his death. And this really should be an awakening call, not just for the car makers, but even on the policy front, where it is not just having more airbags or having higher safety ratings. Those are of course important. I'm not dismissing the importance of that. Please do carry out work on that. We have come a far way along, especially from the mid 2010s, where our cars were consistently referred as tin cans and not safe, and now we have almost all our Indian homegrown manufacturers having very safe cars. But alongside having safe cars, it is very important to have safe roads as well, and having better drivers, because if that is not being improved upon, well, safe cars can only do so much. So I hope that you did get a lot of insights from this video, and do agree with my reasons or disagree with my reasons. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Please do make sure that you share this video. It is very important for the people who are buying cars to know that it is not only the number of airbags which determine the safety rating of a car. There are other factors alongside it, whether it has other features like ABS, CBD, or even anti-skid braking, or for example even as I said, the structural integrity of the car. So rather than only looking at the safety ratings or the airbags, consider the nature of your roads as well, and try to become better drivers too, and more responsible drivers. So until next time, make sure that you drive safe, and I will see you around next time. Thank you so much.